Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time once again to meet our community, the Hispanic business community here in Orange County, powered by the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, with the only person who knows everybody, John Gutierrez.
Hey, everybody. Welcome again to our community podcast show, powered by the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I'm your host, Senior Vice President John Gutierrez. And with us today, we also have another superstar, I want to say community leader, because you do a lot in the community. And of course, many know Yenitza Munoz as a broadcast journalist who has worked for many credited news stations such as KTLA, NBC, Telemundo, Estrella TV, and many more. She is the founder of New Mindset Content. The company is a professional production company that specializes in elite podcast, public relations, marketing, and branding. She has clients such as the Brow TV, Christian Jano, ABA Centers of America, Be Well Network, and more. She helps bring like-minded celebrities to speak on their podcast. And I just found out that she also interviewed Mel Gibson and
Mel Gibson
and Ricky Williams, who I follow a lot in the football community, which we have a photo here with her and him. And so welcome, Yenitza Munoz.
Gracias. Thank you so very much for having me today. And thank you for all of, the kind words that you said. I love supporting my community. I am a proud Mexican American. My parents came here as immigrants de Jalisco, Mexico. And it's just an honor just to even be here. Us Latinos, we make up such a large population of California. And here we are, as they say in Spanish, lo estamos echándolo ganas para seguir adelante.
That's right. Echándole ganas para seguir adelante. It's interesting because I was telling my wife and some of our workers here at the chamber that I was feeling a little bit nervous, and they're like, why? And I'm like, well, Yenitza interviews some pretty big people. Mel Gibson, Ricky Williams, and the list goes on and on, right? Can you share with us before we get into you and tell us more about yourself, what are some of the big names that you've interviewed, or let's just say you've enjoyed?
Yes, I have been a broadcast journalist for over 10 years. And over that span of time, I have worked as a freelance news reporter for a lot of red carpets. And then aside from that, I've done a lot of local news. And then I started my podcast production company. And throughout that time, I've had the opportunity to interview and work with Mel Gibson, John Sally, Ricky Williams, Chevy Chase, Selena Gomez,
Wow.
Justin Bieber, and Vin Diesel. There's a whole roster. Jamie Kennedy's a comedian. He's a cool guy, good friend of mine. And recently, Michael Francis, I know he has a lot of really good books that have sold off the shelves recently. He's a local here in Orange County. Gosh, the list goes on. And, aside from celebrities that I've worked with and interviewed, there's so many advocates as well. And what's cool about these interviews that I have with them is that we really go deep into like their life experiences. So it's not just so much like, tell me about the recent movie you've been in and tell me about how was it like filming those stunts. It's like we have deep conversations about their life. So it's really fulfilling.
That's interesting because I think sometimes people may see celebrities and sports athletes, right, in a different, manner or light. But it isn't until you sit down one-on-one with them that you realize they're just like regular people, right? And they go through hardships like anybody else, right?
Yes.
They go through these challenges.
Except sometimes their hardships are a little different than ours because ours can be more private. And unfortunately, theirs can be just, put on tabloids or maybe gossip stuff that's not even true. And so I feel like they unfortunately have to go through a little, different situation than us. But at the same time, you have to have empathy towards them because they are like us. They have feelings. Obviously, they're human like us.
Exactly. And I'm sure that in your situation, you probably listen to a lot of their needs and challenges. But there's got to be a commonality, because I noticed that here in our podcast show, that everybody we meet with, everybody that we interview, there's always like a common theme, like how they were raised, who mentored them, right? Like their story is pretty unique, but at the same time, a lot of us have a lot of similarities. So I'm sure the famous celebrities have some of their own similarities, right? That they go through.
Yes.
Their challenges.
Yes, and with me for my career, I feel maybe there's a lot of people watching that can relate. You know, growing up as a child of immigrants, first generation Mexican American here in Southern California, we're raised very Mexican. I'm Mexican, so I was raised very Mexican. But then when I would leave my house, I would have friends of, you know, that were Asian, American, African American, the list goes on. And it's like we're always trying to like relate to each other. And then even when it comes to like your career or how you want to act in school and do well in school and get the best grades possible, sometimes you fall into like stereotypes and no, you should just do that career. Or, you don't want to reach for the stars. Just it's all good. Just do that. Or when you do reach for the stars, you're expected a lot more out of. And I feel that, you know, from my perspective, as mentors, yeah, there's some, you know, good Latina mentors, but it's like tough to 100% relate. I didn't really find a lot in broadcast journalism at the time, you know, growing up in the 90s that I could really relate to. So I just kind of went on my own path. I looked up a lot to my father. He was a professional. He was a doctor. He was a doctor in Mexico. Then when he migrated here, he was a doctor here. Looked up to my mom because she has a really hard time reading English. Sometimes I have a hard time speaking English. She has a hard time reading English, but you know, here she is making things happen, you know, here in the U.S. So I look up to them. And I know a lot of people who have immigrant parents, they are just like, man, they did it. Here we are, you know, you and I, we're raised here and we're still struggling. And they came here with nothing and they made it happen.
Well, one of the words we've been hearing a lot as far as like the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and just being out in the community with business leaders and community leaders like yourself is that, you know, that resilience, the word resilience, right? Like how our parents instill that in us. Some people have it, some people don't, right? Like, and I can see that you have that resilience. You know, would you say that that comes just from the roots of who your parents are from their hometown? I mean, tell us a little bit about that. I mean, tell us, I know you talked about like your parents migrating, and what was that like growing up as a kid? And you grew up here in Orange County.
Yes, I grew up in Orange, and seeing what my parents went through was very interesting. They did experience racism back in the day. They always had stories for me. For example, my father, his real name was Juan Jose. And when he opened up his medical office in Anaheim off Euclid, he just went by Dr. Joseph Munoz. Just Joseph. Yes. And so he used his middle name and he just changed it to Joseph, even though in his birth certificate was Juan Jose. But being, you know, the time that it was, you know, times have changed now, but for that time period, it affected his business. So he just wanted to be kind of neutral, just Joe, that is. And I'm sure with you, you're John, so maybe you're.
But my legal name is Juan Miguel.
Exactly.
Gutierrez.
Yes.
And people go, really? That's you? And I'm like, yeah. And, you know, not Luis Miguel, Juan Miguel. But you know, you're right. And as a kid, I don't know how or where they started calling me Johnny as a kid, and then my parents couldn't say it. They would say Yanni with like a Y.
Like my nickname,
yeah,
Yanni.
Yeah, so they would be like Yanni, and then my uncles would be like, Ya no la friegues.
Ya no la friegues.
They would be like Yanni, and then eventually when I got into the business world, one day my boss was like, you can't go by Johnny, and I'm like, really? He goes, no, your name's John. And I was like, okay. So it's interesting how my name kept getting changed from Juan Miguel to Johnny to John, right? And so to your point, what your dad went through is something very common, right?
Yes.
Like, I don't know, just society does that to us, I guess.
Yes. And also in the business space, as you just mentioned, maybe because they just want you not to just be a specific demographic. Maybe they just want to be like where it's kind of wide range, and then maybe more people would knock on the door and you'll have more business, you see.
Very true.
So my name is Yenitza Areli Jimenez Munoz, and now I'm married, so now it's Yenitza Areli Jimenez Munoz Balanos.
Wow, repeat that again one more time. That was
I should say it even faster. No, but yes, my name is Yenitza, which is a Mayan name. My mom came from a family of 12. And
wow.
She was the youngest of 12.
12.
Yes. And And, you know, back in the day.
In Guanajuato?
No, in Jalisco.
In Jalisco, okay.
Yes, I was married in Guanajuato, but
Okay.
both my parents are from Jalisco.
Jalisco.
Los Altos de Jalisco.
That's right.
Yes.
A lot of people from Los Altos, Jalisco out
You
here,
know
right?
what? You are absolutely right. I don't know what it is. Maybe because there's just a lot of opportunity in Southern California that more Latinos come out here. And something about Los Altos in general, if anyone goes to Jalisco a lot, they always know that Los Alteños, you know, the Heights, those people are very, very hard workers. So they're going to provide for their family. And a lot of the men do come out here and they get their work visas. And then, you know, they make things happen. They're como te dije, son gente de oportunidad. You know, they're hustlers. They're making things happen. So maybe that's why. But
Tony, who we had as a guest here from Spoon's Restaurant, he's one of our members. He's from Los Altos, Jalisco. And he's
interesting.
always visiting, and he's always telling me, you need to come visit, because my dad was from those areas also.
yeah,
from
your father's from San Juan de los Lagos.
Yes. And he's like, oh, you got to come down. And he keeps inviting me. We should go, like, me and my wife, him and his wife, and take like a little vacation, because I guess he goes up there. It must be really nice, right, from what I hear.
It is beautiful. So my family's from San Miguel el Alto, which is cerca de Jalostitlan and Pegueros and Tepa, that whole little pocket. And it's a beautiful place. It's very calm and safe. And it's about an hour and a half away from Guadalajara. Small town, very small
For people
town.
listening and viewing, right? Like, these are small town. Beautiful,
Very
right?
small
From what
town.
I hear.
Yes. And there's not much to do there. Like, there's maybe one hotel filled with tons of restaurants. Everyone kind of knows each other. There's not a lot of trouble there because there's not a lot to do. You know, you hear of stories maybe in the outskirts of Guadalajara going on, but Guadalajara is a massive metropolitan city, so it's a whole different situation. But Los Altos is a beautiful place
So
just
what
to
do
have
you
a
do
chill life.
when you go there? Just relax?
You just
eat?
relax, hang out with family.
Hang out, yeah.
There's not much to do. Maybe go to the ranch, ride your family's horses. They have cattle, and you take pictures, selfies with the goats. You know,
Selfies with the goats.
Yes,
Doing
It's a
yoga with the
vibe.
goats,
Doing
huh?
yoga with the goats. But you know, I
Just
love going to Los
much
Altos.
more slower, right? Much more chill
Yes.
life. You're kind of there just to relax, right?
Exactly.
That's what my friend Tony tells me. when he does,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's a beautiful place to relax. But, you know, circling back to the names of family members, you know, my name's Yenitza, which is not very common, even though if you go on Facebook and Instagram, you'll find other Yenitzas, but still not as common.
I haven't heard it very often, but I've heard of the name, and
Yes.
you're right. I've heard that it
Maybe
was like...
Maritza,
Yes.
Yenitza, or
Yes.
Yenitza, or Yesenia. Somewhat similar, but not the same. But, you know, back in the day, they would always name a lot of their kids the same name. For example, all my aunts are Maria, but there'll be Maria with a different middle name. So like Maria del Carmen, Maria de Guadalupe. And then my mother is Maria de Jesus.
What?
So with that being said, my mom was like, no, all my kids are getting unique names. So this is, you know, my older brother's Olicer, then my other brother Anduval, and then I'm Yenitza. Then my
Unique
little
names.
Yes, my little sister is Krishna. So it's just very different. But, you know, going back into where your name is maybe not as common to certain demographics, I also go by Yenny. But professionally, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to be Yenitza. So that's why whenever I'm doing my news reports, I always go, I am Yenitza Munoz. And I've kind of dabbled with the idea to just say I'm Yenny Munoz, but I don't know. I'm very prideful, and I feel like, you know what?
That's
It's my
good.
name. And
That's
I
good.
know maybe people have a hard time pronouncing it sometimes, but I feel like at the end of the day, at the beginning of time, we all had a different kind of unique name.
But you know what? To your point, it also says a lot about how your parents raised you, to be proud of your heritage, right? Your familia, the name that was given to you, right? And that says a lot about your parents, right? That was important for them, that you owned it. I mean, that's great, and kudos to you, because you're right. A lot of people, even myself, like, the name has changed from Juan Miguel. And it was funny because one of my good buddies in high school, his name is Juan Garcia, and, you know, great athlete, attorney now, and he goes by JG. So I thought about doing the same thing. Should I just be called JG? Is it easier, you know? So I think that's great that you've owned the name. And so your parents migrated, you grew up in Orange. What happens in your life at that point, growing up, high school, college? Where do you decide that, hey, I want to pursue this kind of life or industry?
Yes, that's a great question.
What inspired that?
I think I've always been the type of person that has been really into reading and discovering things in history. I've always been that type of girl that wants to finish a book, start it and finish it. I've always been kind of like an intellectual person in that sense. And from then on, I decided, okay, at first I thought I wanted to be an author. I wanted to be a writer of books. And then I was like, man, but what am I going to talk about? What story am I going to tell? And then I kind of went searching into that route. And then the idea of journalism came into play. And what's cool about journalism is that you're taking a factual story, if it's local journalism, and you're telling the people about what happened. And that was something that I was like, you know what, this seems interesting. So I jumped into that, and I actually really enjoyed it. I liked it. I started doing it in English and Spanish. And then from there too, I had this idea of maybe I'll become an attorney one day, because I just really want to help the Latino community specifically. And who knows, maybe one day I will, because I already have my bachelor's. I finished school. I already did everything. I would just have to get my Juris Doctorate. But what I've realized with myself is that I'm the type of person that likes to find a situation and tell people about it in a positive light and educate them. So when I first started interning at Time Warner, now it's called Spectrum News, it's in El Segundo, I was put in really cool situations where I would cover the traffic, the weather, local news stories. But the local news stories that really touched me were for Latinos, because they didn't really have a voice in the American market as much as they did in Univision, Telemundo, and Estrella TV. And I just really wanted to help get their voice out there. There was an unfortunate shooting way back in 2010, 2011, where I covered a shooting over at Santa Monica College. Wow. And unfortunately, some students were killed. And I interviewed a lot of the Latinos that were there, and I had to translate for them. So when we went back in the studio, I translated what they said and the whole thing. But at the end of the day, it helped me understand that we have a voice in our community, and these Latinos really wanted to express their feelings against what had happened that day. And moving forward, that's just how I am. And then also, I am a businesswoman as well. So I decided to open my company, New Mindset Content. And why? Because, now with the power of social media, I feel like, unfortunately, there's a lot of nonsense on there. And social media can be used for good and bad. And I want it to be used for good. So I just decided to help promote companies that have good vision and want to educate people. So a lot of my clients are like the Be Well Network, which I've helped them do educational podcasts for mental health awareness. My current client is Christian Channel, where I help them, do a lot of celebrity-based, faith-based, advocate-based content, educational. And I have a lot of different other clients that I've helped, bring a lot of their content to light. I help bring them celebrities. I help bring them educators on the show. And, at the end of the day, it's a business for me, but it helps them because I like to do things right and I like to help people. So that's why it's New Mindset Content. Because a lot of podcasts out there, but some of them, it's gossip, it's negative, it's over.
It's funny you say that, because every time we conversate with somebody that wants to be on the podcast, or I pitch it to somebody, they always kind of step back and they're like, well, what kind of podcast is it? Right?
Yes.
They think that we're going to, I don't know, I guess to your point, be really controversial.
Some
right?
are.
Yeah.
Even in journalism, some journalists are controversial.
Yeah.
But, I try to stay true to my personality. I've always been that type of person that likes to read into things. Like investigative journalism. I like to know all the facts. I don't like to assume. I like to follow a sentence with, a quote, or who said the quote, or where I found the information. And the same thing goes into my company with New Mindset Content. Every time I bring in a guest, I'm very organized. I have the script ready for them in the sense of things that they are showcasing that is true, that's factual, that's educational. And all the guests too, I always make it where it's no gossip, nothing negative. Let's just talk about how we can help others. Because like I mentioned, with social media, you have now billions of people that are able to watch YouTube, go on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And why not have something positive and educational? Why not?
Yeah. And to your point, you're right. It seems like today, everybody wants to get something bad and negative.
For clickbait.
Yes. And it's sad because now you're seeing kids disrespecting their own grandparents and parents and like waking them up, in the middle of the night and doing crazy things just to get that video that they're losing the, I don't know, I guess the morale, the ethics behind it, right? So the fact that you're bringing content that's ethical, right?
Yes.
And the reason why it's interesting that off the air we just mentioned, I was on PBS studios last week, and they're all about that. They were talking about that when they were talking to us about how everything today is the kind of content we're putting out there and making sure that it's factual, right? Because so much of it is not, right?
Yes. And there's not a lot of regulations either. Like sometimes you might get like shadow banned because it's all AI. So a lot of times people think it's just someone behind the screen saying, oh, I didn't like that hashtag or that quote or what they even said, and YouTube catches it. But a lot of it's AI, and AI is picking up data. So at the end of the day, AI is just a bunch of data collected over time. And so you could have like a child, maybe I don't think any kid should be on social media, but it happens, right? Like a 10-year-old or 12-year-old on social media, and they could see a video and think it's real or think that opinion is factual. And so everyone can have an iPhone, everyone can have a smartphone, that is, whether it's Android, iPhone, they're on the computer. So it's always good just to have positive educational content, and also to add to that, we live in a crazy world. When I was doing Sky 5, when I was trained up there with Gil Levis, Emmy Award winning journalist, he taught me a lot over at KTLA in the helicopter, that is. I was there for a while, and it was just so amazing, that experience I had covering the news in a helicopter. For anyone who doesn't follow me yet on social media, I was basically in a helicopter that is very small in the back seat covering the news with Gil Levis. And unfortunately, you see horrific things. You see really bad car accidents, motorcycle accidents, homicides, fires, really sad situations. And you see people suffering. And when you're like, how do you see that? You're up in there. Let me tell you, our equipment is phenomenal. I mean, during pursuits, I could see the face of someone from way up in the air, just following them with my camera while we're going over 120 miles per hour. 1,000 feet up in the air, that is.
Weren't you scared?
Surprisingly, I at first, I wasn't really. At first, I was a little scared because when I was trained, they would tell you the risks of dying. And so I was like, okay, that's pretty serious. You have to duck at a certain level getting into the helicopter. X, Y, and Z. I won't go into detail. There's your oxygen mask in case we reach a certain altitude, if we go to Big Bear to cover something. If we run out of fuel, what to do, like where we have to land, you have to know the antennas. There's so much I learned that would kind of give me anxiety because number one, I didn't want to die. Number two, I didn't want to mess up anything.
I mean, helicopters are pretty they're
dangerous.
You can feel it. Like
the turbulence was intense. So you have to get used to turbulence.
Especially if they're chasing, right? Somebody and all that.
Yes, you have to have a strong stomach. You do get nauseous. So I got used to it because you are going very fast, and then you're doing sharp turns.
Yes.
And then even when you are at a pursuit that has stopped, or let's say a crime scene, and you're hovering over,
then they go in circles.
As you're hovering, you're going in circles, and you are staring into the camera. And I have a headset, let's say like this.
Wow.
And I don't have a microphone like this, but I have a kind of like a lavalier kind of a mic per se. But anyways, you do get nauseous, so you just have to practice.
Wow.
But
pretty intense.
It is intense.
Journalism is not easy, folks. You see?
Especially as a helicopter journalist, it is not easy. But with that being said, you see all the crazy stuff that goes on in Los Angeles, here in general, in Southern California. A lot of it was in Los Angeles, more than Orange County. We didn't cover San Diego, though. But I would take that experience back home with me. I would drive an hour back home, and I was just sitting in my car like, man, we just need better content. I mean, that content's real, so people need to see the reality of that. But at the end of the day, it's like I would just want people to see the what I want. If I had kids, which one day I will, I would want them to see. I don't want them to see like the pursuits and guns drawn, man down.
Yeah.
I want them to see like, okay, well, here on the Christian channel, we're talking about relics, or we're talking about different advocates throughout our history, or maybe family-friendly content and where they can watch it, or with the Be Well Network, different therapists on there speaking about how you can help your loved ones. So that's what I was mostly drawn to, and I still love being a freelance journalist. I absolutely love it. But at the same time, I saw there was a need for my company, New Mindset Content, and how I can help the community, and also how I can help the Latinos as well. because at the end of the day, even though there's so many of us, you'll be surprised that we still don't have a voice.
You know, I want to give a big shout out to, you mentioned a few times KTLA Channel 5 News, because my good friend is Henry DeCarlos. I've supported his golf tournament for many years. He supports our stuff. And I watch that religiously, like that channel. Like every morning I'm up at 5 watching the news. And you're right. It's when you watch a lot of the TV, there's not a lot of our representation out there. And we need more of it, you know? So it's kudos to you and other journalists out there, right, that are fighting their way through to break those barriers, right? Because you will open doors for so many after you, right?
Yes.
But it must be also challenging, like you said earlier, that you don't also have other people that you can look up to that are Latinos or Latinas, right?
Yes.
That were in the industry. So that must have been a challenge.
Yes, and I do see it kind of changing now, because that was in the 90s where I couldn't find anyone that I can relate to, and I feel like it's starting to change now. But you know what? With all professions that are like professional professions, that is, for example, an attorney, a doctor, I feel, you know, my dad was a doctor, he was an MD, and there wasn't a lot of representation then, not even now. And I feel that, you know, a lot of Latinos, when we graduate from high school, then we're kind of like, okay, now off to college, what do I want to do? I feel like there needs to be more emphasis on careers that give you stability, number one, and careers that involve helping others and helping our community. So stability, helping others, and helping our community, those three things. And, you know, if you look at other cultures, they're really big about that. Like, oh, like there's a lot of, you know, Asian doctors or attorneys, or Indian doctors and attorneys, or Middle Eastern. And there are Latinos, not saying there isn't, but I feel like we have such an amazing work ethic. We are good people. We are capable of so much more. And so let's just do it. And there's scholarships out there, but I feel like there needs to be more help. I know I've seen like different scholarship programs that are $1,000. I'm like, oh, you know, college is like $100,000 now.
Yeah, it's tough.
So there needs to be more opportunity for us Latinos, and the only way it's going to happen is if we just all come together and we voice it more.
Yeah, we had recently on our podcast show Dr. Mayorga, and he's a UCI grad, and he talked a lot about that, you know, about just having more Hispanic, you know, physicians, right, MDs, and you know, both female and males, right? That's important. And just like in your profession, journalism, let's quickly tear off to now. Is this correct? Coffee blends? You're in?
Oh,
Is
yes.
this one of your passions? Something you enjoy to do?
So no, Munoz Coffee was just a fun little side thing I did on because my father really loved coffee.
Okay.
And my father, unfortunately, he's passed on. He's
Sorry to hear
passed he's in heaven, but nonetheless, he loved coffee. And so I kind of dabbled with the idea of like a cup of Joe. His name was Jose. Well, Juan Jose, as we spoke about earlier, but I went by Joe.
Yes.
And so I was like, you know what? I should do some, you know, cool coffee stuff. And I love black coffee. I love my Mexican coffee, you know, la canela.
Yes.
People that don't know, Mexican coffee is like a cinnamon taste. It's black, but café de olla to be exact.
Yes.
But nonetheless, I started because of that idea. And I just put it on my website for fun. It was like a drop shipping thing, and it took off. People were actually loving it. They would buy it on Shopify on my website, my personal website, which is yenitzamunoz.com, spelled. It's going to be a long one. YENITZA, which is also all my social media handles. So yenitzamunoz.com. And so that's what that is. But, you know, right now I'm just mostly have my podcast company and freelance journalism.
Yeah, and from what I hear, I mean, some of these names, I mean, this is great. The fact that you're interviewing some pretty big. What is that like for you when you get these names that come across your table?
Well, thanks for bringing that up, because a lot of it is my own PR. So being that I'm a freelance journalist, I've been doing this for a long time. I know a lot of people. So I bring that to my company. So when I have a brand that wants celebrities, as long as it makes sense, it's a like-minded topic, a like-minded, you know, niche with the situation.
It's like you're a matchmaker, right?
Matchmaker, yes.
Yes,
So I'll
in
bring
business, right?
in business. So I'll
And
bring them
celebrities.
exactly, and I'll bring them the celebrities to speak about that specific topic. So you're looking at a photo with Ricky Williams, a really cool guy. That was with a client I had a few years ago.
Right. Heisman Trophy winner, I think
Yes,
he was,
sir.
right? Yeah, in college.
Yes.
Yeah, Texas. Great. And then played for the Dolphins.
Yes. And that was with Green Talk, which is a CBD company. And Ricky Williams is in the CBD space. I've also booked Ricky with a lot of other clients, Be Real TV. and a few other podcasts. Aside from that, I've worked with John Sally. I've booked him for a few podcasts. Good friend of mine.
He is so tall.
He is so tall.
Insane.
Yes.
Like I've been around some NBA players, like
And
my
he
buddies,
can't hide.
but he is so tall.
Like some celebrities can hide, you know, but he can't because he's just so tall. Well, a lot of NBA athletes can't, but I mean, he's also always in front of the camera, so you'll just see him. You're like, oh, it's John.
Yeah. He's got that big personality.
Big
right?
personality, very nice person too, very humble. Some celebrities, maybe they have anxiety, you know, because I work with a lot of them, so I understand, but he doesn't. He's just like, this is me. What's up?
I know what that's like. You know, I know. I get anxiety. You know.
Yes.
So with Mel Gibson, what was that like? If you don't mind sharing a little bit about that.
You know, that
I mean,
was
he's such a big name, right?
Such a big name, cool guy. So I was assigned to interview him for his new movie with David Henry, also really cool guy. Shout out to David Henry. And David Henry is the director and creator of a movie called Monster Summer, which is kind of like The Goonies. And it came out in theaters during Halloween. Really cool family fun movie. And it was like, it was about like a Goonies adventure, took place in the 90s. And It was really cute family.
So they're kind of revisiting that whole idea.
Exactly.
Huh? Goonies was such a big hit.
Yeah, yes, it was. And so Mel Gibson played a big role in that film. And so I was invited to cover the red carpet. And originally I was supposed to do a junket. A junket, for all you who don't know, is basically a one-on-one interview with a celebrity about a movie or a project that they're doing. And I did the junket with all the other celebrities of the movie, but when it came to Mel, something happened where he was like not feeling well, unfortunately. And so he was like, I'll just save it for the red carpet. And when I heard that, I was like, oh man, he probably won't go to the red carpet because A-list celebrities, when their schedule gets crazy, there's no guarantee if they'll make it to the red carpet, depending on what time they arrive or how they feel, especially if he wasn't feeling well. So long story short, fast forward, I'm at the red carpet. We're doing the thing, you know, interviewing all the celebrities, and it starts getting chaotic behind me because all these fans came in. It was over at off Sunset Boulevard at the Actors Guild Center. So people were coming in. I don't know whoever was doing their security at that time. It was getting chaotic. I think they needed more security. That was the problem. So long story short, Mel gets in there and he was confident. He didn't care that people were trying to jump, take selfies with him. He did every interview on the red carpet. And by the time he got to me, it was getting chaotic, and he still took the time to speak with me. Even though there was people trying to run on the red carpet and take selfies with them, there was a lot of TikTokers there, like the prankers that you brought up earlier in the conversation. A lot of them were there, and it was chaotic. So anyways, we did the interview, went well. We had 5 million views on that interview.
Wow.
Through the Christian
Way
channel.
to go, Mel Gibson.
Yeah, really nice
The
guy.
Patriot is one of my favorite movies.
Nice.
I love that movie. And, you know, I just want to, because I know we're running out of time, only got a couple of minutes, share with everybody what's next for, you know, Yenitza. What is your goal? What do you hope to do? What's next in the future for you?
Well, I feel with my personality, there's no limits. I'm always doing things that if there's something I want to do, I make sure it happens. But right now, I really want to grow new mindset content. I really want to help the Latino community, especially now there's so much crazy stuff going on and you see it online. And I really also want to mentor. If anyone is, struggling, feel free to reach out to me on my social media. I want to mentor young Latinos and really help guide them. You know, when I was a kid, the 90s and early 2000s, like I said earlier, I was like, man, I want other Latina mentors, but I couldn't find any. But now I feel like, hey, I want to be your mentor. I can help you. So if you want to be a businesswoman, if you want to be a journalist or whatever, just DM me, and then we'll see if you're real. And we can talk on the phone.
Well,
but I want to help people.
We'll look to do is connect you also with our youth chamber.
Yes.
Our youth chamber has been around 15 years, and it's just, there's some great young kids. I don't want to call them kids because they're young leaders. They're at UCI, Chapman, Cal State Fullerton, you name it.
I went to Loyola Marymount University, and I'm also looking at helping any of the students over there. I'm an alumni. Class of 2012.
Great school.
Great school.
Great school, yeah.
And even when I know we're running out of time, but when I was at LMU, there wasn't a lot of Latinos at the time there.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's changed now, but at the time it was weird. Yeah. And I was dorming. I had the dorm experience, and my friend that I was dorming with, she was African American, and we were like, "What's up?" Like they just put us together. Where's everyone else?
That happened to me at Chico State, and I remember, my roommate who's from Oakland, into rap and everything. I never forget when he was like, "Yo, John, what is this Vicente Fernandez guy
Vicente,
you keep listening to?"
el rey.
Yeah, and I started telling him, it's kind of like the rap you listen to, bro.
He's like the Elvis of Mexico.
And I started telling him, these are corridos and these are
yeah.
like, música ranchera. And I
Yeah.
started explaining. And he was like, man, that's dope, man. That's cool. And he was from Oakland, straight up into rap and all that, Too Short and all those guys. But he really learned to appreciate Vicente Fernandez's music, So sometimes the cultures, that's cool, we can help educate each other.
Yes. No, but my roommate and I were just saying that we just feel like there need to be more representation. But long
Yes.
story short, I'm here to help anyone. Also go to my social media, Yenitza Munoz, and anyone that is interested in branding with podcasts and celebrity endorsements or public relations, reach out to me, and my company, New Mindset Content, can help you.
Well, folks, there you have it. We're so honored to have broadcast journalist Yenitza Munoz with us today. Reach out to her, and we'll see you guys again at our next show. And again, please follow, of course, our Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce social media at OCHCC.
And did you want to plug the Estrella Awards?
Estrella Awards, yes. It's coming up. We're almost sold out. We've sold, I think, close to 600 tickets already. We're going to, I think, max out at 700. I don't know that we're going to push it to 800 this year. So make sure that you get your tickets. Go to our website, ochcc.com. You'll see all the information there. Mr. Paul Roberts, thank you so much for, again, having us. Yenitza, wishing you all the best. Thank you for coming on our show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on it. It was an honor. Thank you. Gracias.
All right, folks, there you have it. Take it away.
Adios.
Nos vemos.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. One more reason to tune in each and every time to meet our community. Right here in Orange County's only community radio station, powered by the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.